Big news for another Israeli startup. Onavo, a mobile analytics company, announced it has been bought by Facebook. The Tel Aviv-based office will become the anchor for Facebook in Israel, the first such office in the country. The terms have not yet been disclosed, but are reported as between a $100 and $200 million deal. And joining me in the studio is Gilad Alpel, Senior Analyst for Excellence Nesuah Brokerage here in Israel. Thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
So another coup for Israeli high-tech. What details do we know about this?
Well, just like you say, we know approximately the amount of the acquisition between 100 and 200, and we of course know what the startup does. Basically, they have two tools that Facebook obviously found very valuable. The first one is a tool that compresses data and therefore lowers cost for people, end users that use mobile applications. The second tool is an analytics tool that tells you exactly how popular an application is. Not merely just how many downloads you have, but actually how many people use it and how much, which is obviously valuable for advertisers, it's valuable for app developers, and obviously Facebook found it useful.
How important it is that Facebook has an office here in Israel?
Well, it's a first. This is the third acquisition.
And about time, I think.
Yeah, of course. This is the third acquisition that Facebook does in Israel. But the first one where they actually leave the office here in Israel and actually build an entire development center around it. Now, the reason, there could be a couple of reasons why Facebook decided to do that now. Firstly, it could be that this company they acquired is just important enough for them to leave them here. And they also are going to keep the brand, by the way, of Onavo. So that's probably saying something. The second reason could be somewhat more interesting. Facebook reportedly missed a couple of transactions in the past when companies that Facebook was basically courting refused to be bought by it because they wanted to stay in Israel. And I guess Facebook decided that maybe it's time to kind of go along with the wishes of the companies they want to acquire and leave them where they are, or at least where they want to be.
So we hear that it's a very big deal, from what we just heard, estimated between 100 and 200 billion dollars. Million dollars, I'm sorry. How is it going to affect the Israeli industry, if it is?
Well, it's not big enough to impact...
Or it's a good fortune only for them?
No. This is excellent for Israel. This is excellent for the current account. It's an inflow of foreign exchange of US dollars in this case into Israel. It's great for the economy. Facebook is probably going to hire more people to join the development center. So it's very positive from that respect. It's not by itself big enough to have a real impact on the the national accounts of Israel right now, but it's big enough. What is interesting is that this is another indication that the Israeli tech universe is able to continuously come up with technologies, with applications that large US technology companies are finding valuable. And it's no coincidence that the Chinese have started to look around in Israel for interesting companies. Siemens has been doing it for a while. Nokia, when it was still a viable concern, so to speak, was doing it for a while. So it's just another very strong indication that Israeli startups are managing time after time to kind of pinpoint exactly what the needs are of large US companies and develop technologies that are good enough to be acquired.
Recently, there was another startup with Waze, the GPS company, and
Right.
You're talking about a lot of applications that Israel is actually managing to get outside, applications and technology. Mm-hmm. What do you think is so special about, does the Israeli find that other countries cannot actually put the step on?
Well, that's a fantastic question. I know that Singapore is actually spending a lot of money in trying to figure out what it is that we have and they don't. I guess it's a combination of a few factors. Firstly, this is also the case with the company that was acquired by Facebook. The co-founder are ex-military intelligence personnel. So they're getting a lot of experience from serving in the army in units that at least in some vague technological respect or correspond to the private market technology sector. Another factors are probably more related to culture. Culture in Israel, people are willing to take risks, take chances, work very hard. There's obviously a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in Israel. And apparently we have it more than in other countries, which is why Israel is apparently the largest center of startups outside of the US, outside of the West Coast, actually.
Gilad Alper, I hope that you will come again and bring us some more good news about things like that. Thank you very much.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this.